This is going to be a fun topic for me to talk about because I get to practice devil's advocacy. I guess I'll call it, for lack of a better term. But today I'm going to be talking about Charleston White's show in New York getting canceled by essentially by DJ Akademiks and pretty much LiveNation. For those of you who don't know, if you don't follow these characters, Charleston White had a show that was set to take place on the 30th of this month. I think it was either this month or April in New York, where he's going to do a comedy. And if you don't know who Charleston White is, it's not a bad place to be. But let me go ahead and corrupt you. He is a polarizing figure on the internet who talks about unsavory topics involving race relations and violence in the Black community, I guess is what I would really sum it up to. He's a guy who is, he says a lot of things that you can't necessarily support, is how I will best describe it. I'm not going to go too far into the things that he says, but basically he has said things that have pretty much equated to, I don't want to say advocacy, but definitely bordering advocacy. Mostly showing a lack of concern for things such as the RAP of women and also violent assault and pretty much the unalivening of children of different races and ethnicities in a manner that very precariously walks the line of facetiousness, being performative, and being serious. Do I personally know where these things fall in that spectrum for him? Like, does he really mean the things that he says? I don't know. Is he saying these things because he wants to promote hate and violence or anything like that? I don't know. Is he saying these things to get attention, trying to say the most negative, shocking things that he can? That much you can definitely at least say yes in part. That doesn't mean that he doesn't mean them, but we can say for sure that part is yes. It's getting him attention. That's why he's having shows and bookings there. But the booking also got canceled because recently he went on one of his tirades on a live talking about exactly what I just described to you in regards to the Asian community. Many people were upset by that. Specifically, one important figure in that would be China Mac, a person, if you don't know him, he is a YouTube character. That's CHINAMAC. And when I say YouTube character, I'm a YouTube figure, pardon me. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody here. He's a person who is on YouTube, has his own podcast channel. I'm pretty sure he was a rapper, though. Excuse me. I've never heard any of his music, is all I'm going to say. But anyways, he took particular offense to what China Mac had said about his people. Fair enough. And said that, basically you said, hey, we'll see you at your show there in New York, because China Mac is from New York originally, and we're going to hold you accountable for the things that you said. So, LiveNation and DJ Akademiks, who was putting the show on and presenting Charleston, basically decided to cut the show, cut the cord, so that it can avoid any type of liability for an incident that could unfold there. And a lot of people I see were calling for this beforehand, and a lot of people that I saw were happy and support that he got canceled. And I just have to take a moment to say, and I want you to listen very closely to what I'm about to say here, because it's the crux of everything that comes afterwards. I don't support the things that Charleston White said. I don't support him ever moving forward with a call to action or anybody to commit atrocities against anyone of any race that are unwarranted. But I do support his right to express the way that he thinks and feels about other races, whether he likes them or not, and what he thinks should be done to them. Because there's a difference between saying what should be done to somebody, what you hope happens to somebody, what you wish happens to somebody, and instructing people to do something to someone. Oftentimes when I talk about free speech, I talk about the importance of taking the worst example to draw a point, meaning the hardest to defend, and using that as the example, because if it's a position that is undeniably unalienable as a right, such as freedom of speech is granted by the Constitution in the United States of America, then we have to be able to prove that even with the worst example. It should be easy, right? Gravity, well, I don't know if there's different, better or worse. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have to prove that gravity exists, but all you have is a feather, you can still prove that gravity exists with the feather, right? Even though it's harder to prove that than it is with something heavier, right? Maybe that's not a great example, but my point is that I support Charleston White's right to talk about his disdain for anybody, any race, including his own, because he definitely has not said the best things about black people or anything like that either. So let's not pretend like he doesn't hold, like he withholds his vitriol from any group of people. And I support his right to go ahead and speak his mind, as long as he's not, rallying people to go harm people, which I have not seen him directly do. I have seen him come very close to it. I'm not going to lie, which is why I'm choosing to use him as an example, because he has come very close, almost close enough to be the tester of that and to push that boundary, not to push the boundary as to say, oh, we should now start to allow violence as freedom, but to push the boundary to say, this is a country with free speech, right? I'm going to see what I can actually say here that is speech, just speech. If there is ever in the future some person, somebody who commits an act of aggression or anything against somebody else and says, I did this because Charleston White told me to, or I did this because I've been listening to Charleston White, or Charleston White was right about you people, and look at you guys, and this is what you deserve, then that would be another scenario. But as far as I've seen, there has been not one example of that yet. So now, I want to address the people calling for his cancellation. Because not only am I, as an American, against canceling people for speaking freely, of course, I want to address the specific type of people who are specifically targeting, Charleston White. Gang bangers. Charleston White has made an enemy of gang bangers of every culture. Black, white. Not so much white. Black, Hispanic, Asian. All of them. Because of the different things that he said, right? Less about the racially charged things or what they do to women and all that stuff. Less about that, and really more so about his advocacy for anti-gangs, anti-violence in the community, specifically the black community, because he believes that it is overrun with gangbangers and criminals. And he speaks out against them. He speaks to the black community and tells them that you need to reclaim your community from violent thugs, and you need to be able to use the police and utilize them to do such. I am not going to address my personal thoughts on that position right now, Maybe in a later video I will, but it's not relevant to this video. Because once again, even if I agree with him or don't, I support his right to say what he does freely. Now, who doesn't support his right to say what he wants freely? Criminals, ex-criminals, and active gangbangers who maybe aren't committing crimes but are liking to portray the lifestyle. These people all have a problem with Charleston White because he's calling for the arrest of gangbangers and has had gangbangers put behind bars because of things that he's done, right? These people are the same people calling for his cancellation. Men calling for another man to be canceled, like removed from the internet, like have his shows canceled and his bag disrupted for words that he has said. Not actions, but words. Claiming that he's advocating for terrible things to happen. Let's start with if that is true. If this was a dude in your hood who was committing atrocities or telling children to commit atrocities against women or people of a certain race, your race, meaning RAP, so on and so forth of the women, or committing acts of violence against men of a race, let's say Chinese people, right? If there was somebody in your community who was doing that, you would handle that by addressing them, especially if you're a gangbanger. Even if you weren't a gangbanger, I'm a civilian, I'm not a gangbanger. I would address them myself in the community, right? Before I went to a cop, because it would honestly, even for a civilian, be harder to get something to be done by a cop with the lack of proof that you have than whatever you can deal with in the community from word of mouth or hearsay, right? Specific and extra if he was a gangbanger, because we've seen it time and time again from the media that we absorb as civilians when we see this information about gangsters from the mafia all the way down to the Rolling 60 Crips when Nipsey Hussle passed. We don't do the snitching. We don't appreciate people getting locked up. We actually want them to be free because we would like to accost them ourselves when they do something to our people, much like when Lil Tim went to jail. Everybody said that they wanted him to be free so that they could do something to the man who is still walking around right now, mind you. Oh, wasn't supposed to say that. Anyways, the point of what I'm making, or the point that I'm making here, is that you don't wish jail upon your worst enemy because you want your worst enemy to be able to be caught by you, and you don't want to be in jail, right? Isn't that what they're saying? Is that not what you guys preach all the time? But now you want this man to be canceled and to lose his bag and to not be able to perform at the place where you can show up to see him if you actually had that much of a problem with him. Oh, no. We don't want to see him live in the flesh to address him. We would rather have him canceled and his bag disrupted. Now, if you were a civilian and you were like, hey, man, I'm not here to accost this man. I'm not here to do anything. I just don't believe that he should be financially gaining from his positions. That's fine for a civilian to say. It's still whack to me, but that's fine for a civilian to say. It's not fine from your own rules that you guys create. It is not fine, from my understanding, for gangbangers to wish that a person be removed from a place where they could do something to them if they had a problem with them. Is that not the case? Are we playing? Where are we at with it, bro? I'm sick of people switching up the rules every day for what conveniences them. And that is why I will stand by a person like Charleston White, even not supporting the things that he says, because at least this nigga has never, at least this man, I say the N-word sometimes. At least this man has never switched his position on who he is and what he stands by. And if he dies on that, he's already said that that's what's going to happen. That's fine. That's what comes with that. There used to be a time where people respected that. Even if you can't respect the things that a man's saying. Well, I'm here to bring back those times because that's what freedom of speech is founded off of. And if you want your life, liberty, and your pursuit of happiness that you enjoy in the United States of America, no matter what ethnicity you are, you moved here for a reason, right? Why don't you respect the laws of the land? So if you want to do something to that man, why don't you do something to that man? Talking from my chest because this shit really really grinds my gears, you know? I'm just so sick of y'all playing. Like, it's these rules one day and then it's these rules the next day, bro. And y'all niggas sit there and act like y'all 10 toes down, just real genuine thugs in y'all hearts, bro. Not a genuine bone in your body. You're not real until you die for what you believe in. That's all there is to it. Let's see Charleston's head get popped, huh? Do it then.